Hey Mexicans, welcome back to this new video where today we're going to be looking at a scenario where what if all WICSO Colonial Empire, some Adizzs WICSO, come into the modern world. And all historical ones. I mean everyone is here. We have the Brown Team's Colonial Empire at its peak, which yes has its World War II stuff. But also the Lime Team's empire at its colonial peak. So as it goes to the main Lime Team area, this little South Chinese thing, this Indonesian thing, this North Australian thing, and along with that, Northern Madagascar, Northern Chile, and this Alaskan colony. Which also the Brown Team's at its peak is here, but you gotta realize the Brown Team did get this expansion. That's because they expanded upon that. The Lime Team never did. This is the Lime Team's at its peak. And then the Brown Team does have an overlapping claim, but this brown area was extra land that they claimed after they won World War One, so they get to keep that. So then we also see the African team's colony. Yeah, they had a colony, so they count in this video. So, yeah, there's their mainland. They are still pretty anti-colonial, but they do have this little part, which is Brazil, but this part was an African Union colony, so it goes to them. So the African Union's in this video. Then we see Galicia at its peak. So, yeah, they have this colony, which, yeah, also has this little part. But there's also this colony right here, this Quebec colony. This is Galicia's, as this is what they were during their peak. So then we also have Catalonia in here, which has their colony in Africa, this Ethiopian one. Then we had the Dark Cyan team and their big African holding, their big South American and Central American holding, and in their Australian piece, Oceanic piece. So yeah, the Oceanic piece is here. And so we have the Dark Cyan team, the Brown team, the African Union, the Galicians, the Lime team, and we also have the French here with their colonial claims, which is at this part of Egypt and then this Canadian part. The Brown team's here too. Yeah, we already discussed that. The two Italian countries are here too. Not just this one, which did take over this whole entire colony after World War One. This is like pre-World War One borders. So yeah, the Romans count in this scenario. So yeah, they have this Eastern Libya part, while the North Italians have this part. The Irish also have their colonial empire. I forgot to mention them, but they have their empire, which spans themselves this whole entire Greenland, North Canada territory, the Congo, and this part of Eastern South America. And then the final one we're going to be discussing is the Chinese. They have their mainland over here. So we have the mainland over here, Taiwan, the Philippines, this part of Oceania, and this part of northeastern Australia. So this is pretty much where influence lies in here. That's their sphere, kind of. It's where the colonial empire lies. It's all pretty closely packed together, actually, in comparison to the other empires. So, yeah. With that, we will now take a look at this scenario, and we will see what will happen. Okay, so first up, we see the Brazilian colony. Well, Brazil can't really hold off on its own because its capital is under, I think, the red team. So this part will just go to the African Union. Not because the African Union wanted it, but because this area literally has no other choice. It has to join the African Union. And yeah, that means that the colonial presence has expanded. Not that they want that, but you know, it's what happens. You're gonna have to. This isn't your world. And as for the remaining parts of this, yeah. Well, the Lime team's definitely gonna do one thing, what they do best, and that is just invade this entire region. They will be in a dark blue so that we don't confuse the African Union's color, even though their African Union's color is more purplish blue than actual blue. But, you know, we don't want to confuse these two, otherwise we would have problems. So yeah, the Lime team has declared war on all these, on what remains of Chile, Argentina, Paraguay, Bolivia, and Peru. Yeah, it's not gonna last long for these. They're not that strong. Especially Argentina and Chile. And Paraguay actually, because they don't even have their Peru's only southern Peru. That's not gonna last. Yeah, none of these countries are gonna last long, point being. And due to that, eventually it just falls to the Lion team completely. And we even need to discuss what would happen. And there we go. And all of North and South America are now under colonial influence. And the Lion team's colony is looking very familiar to what the breakaway of this country eventually managed to form. So yeah. And well, in Africa, these countries don't really want to invade this specific region. And the unification was already popular in these countries for the East African Federation. But now there's literally no choice, as it's the only thing you can do to pretty much survive. And so these countries unify into the East African Federation, which, by the way, has also takes up the borders of the Tanzanian country in WICSO. That's not a coincidence. That's just because that's the land that remained in there. And then as for these areas, South Africa does have a lot of its important cities still, so they're fine. Lesotho joins them though, and so does Namibia, or what remains of it, because that's not a lot that remains. But yeah, Tanzania is the East African Federation, and then South Africa is also pretty unified. So yeah, that's what the remains of that is just done. But as for this part, Israel's just gonna take that for themselves. They've already done this before, and they just decide to do it again. Only this time Egypt can't fight back because yeah. So yeah, now Africa's fully dealt with. In Europe, it's much more interesting though, as these areas are pretty divided on who's gonna go to who. But London is already under Dutch control, so. And this thing, Scotland wouldn't even work either because Glasgow, I believe, is under Ireland. So it is agreed by the major powers in here that, yes, this needs to be divided. And what best way to divide this land than by doing this? Which, if I'm not mistaken, that's, I think, what they did in the WICSO timeline, too. Eventually, later on in history. This does work, though. It really does. As, who's gonna stop them? No one. The colonial empires are pretty strong. Unless they get coalitioned by... Yeah. We will see it form into that, though. We will. Just wait. But the whole world's like, didn't we stop colonialism? And who are these randoms? The world is not happy by just the showing of these unknown colonial empires. And of course, Ireland has no choice but to join this. They do. They just do. And now we see that the British Isles is split between the Dutch and the Irish, with Brittany going to the Dutch final. That right there is definitely a final thing. So, what's next? Well, the Dutch want to fix their borders here, with reason. Especially the Swiss border. Switzerland barely even exists. It can't really survive. And we also see the two Italian countries invading too. All you really need to know is that this will go on the WICSO's favor. So yeah, they push into this part, easily take that over. Yeah. This part taken easily, especially because Poland is not as strong as these colonial empires. And then as for what happens in the Italian peninsula, the only two that are going to be pushing in is like the North Italians and the Romans, and the Romans are able to take the Balkans just because they're way closer in proximity than Italy. Sure, they take a little sliver, but that's it. And with that being said, now these two countries are now all these countries are fully taken over. Now we can take a look at a peace treaty. So in this peace treaty, we see the Dutch Empire takes a little bit of like East Prussia, pretty much, and they leave Poland to exist. Along with that, they take a little bit of Poland that was there. But we also see the North Italians finishing off regular Italy from everywhere, and we have the Purple Romans taking over that part of northern Serbia, the rest of Bosnia, the rest of Croatia, and the rest of and all of Slovenia. They leave Serbia and Montenegro, but they don't just leave them by themselves. They want influence in the Balkans. So what they do is unite the rest of this into Yugoslavia, and then just puppet the remaining part. So this is now a Roman puppet. And also, due to this connection, this part of Montenegro pretty much just joins Albania. And also, yeah, forcing Kosovo to join wasn't it just doesn't make relations with Albania better. But what are you gonna do? It's Kosovo, and the Romans influenced this part, so you have to listen to them. So yeah. So yep. Then we also see stuff happen over here with the Lime Indians, as they kind of force the remains of Afghanistan, Pakistan. Actually, no. The remains of Pakistan and India to join up with this. Which includes the southern part, too. So, yeah. But yeah, now they need to make their borders look better. And how will they do that? Well, simple. They will really just start putting the Persendia in Persendia. And yeah, they invade Iran and Afghanistan to fix this border. We do see, however, at first, they are able to push in, and this is just because like the colonial forces aren't here yet. India as a whole, like in the mainland, it's not really that strong compared to Iran in this scenario. Not in real life though, but here, yeah. They just have successes at first. This is not me totally making the video at least a bit interesting. So this is the amount they push into. Now they don't push into these. This is so yeah. Now the full military rise, and yeah, that's not good. They push back into their land. What the fuck is that? So yeah, they push back into all this, and yeah, pretty soon, yeah. Peace treaty, and yeah, they get fully annexed. So yeah, now the Persendia and Persendia is making a lot of sense. So yeah, Persendia is making sense. And just to get it over with, they pretty much force all these countries to join. So yeah, Bangladesh, Bhutan, and Nepal. Yeah, they're a part of this now. And then next up, the Chinese will decide to invade their counterparts and the modern counterparts in this universe. With the Lion Team, of course, because the Lion Team would want some of that land. Not all of it, but you know. They also kind of just invade this part of Mongolia, which pretty much became its own nation after the whole cutoff. So yeah, the Lime Team pushes in, and they specifically are able to push into this South Chinese area, which is a union, an actual union in this in the WICSO universe. And so you see what will happen is this colony will expand to encompass the lands of like that specific empire. They do push into Tibet though for a bit, getting to Kashmir, which this Persindia will also take, but for the most part, the rest of this just ends up going to China eventually. And we will now take a look at a peace treaty. So yeah, we have the final peace treaty of this video. We see the Lime Team colony expand into this part of South China, while the rest of China goes over to Mongolia. I mean, not Mongolia, China. And yeah, with that out the way, that will end this video for now, but there is one more thing real quick, just so I don't have to do this in the next episode. Yeah, we see the Persindians take over that part of Australia. So now I think that there's no more gaps anywhere. Yeah, I think we're good on gaps. So yeah, with that out the way, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in part 2, where things are about to get really dicey.